My name is Rachel Morrison, and I'm 29 years old. For the past 7 years, my family treated my career as a teacher like it was some kind of consolation prize, a backup plan for someone who couldn't make it in the real world. My younger sister Amanda worked in finance and never missed an opportunity to remind me that her annual bonus exceeded my entire yearly salary. But last Thanksgiving, when she publicly humiliated me in front of her colleagues for being just a teacher, something inside me finally shifted. What happened next didn't just change how my family saw me. It revealed a connection that left my sister, her boss, and everyone at that dinner table completely speechless. Before I dive into how I went from being the family's disappointment to watching my sister beg for my help, I'd appreciate if you'd take a moment to like and subscribe. But only if you genuinely connect with stories about quiet strength and unexpected revelations. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what brought you to this video. Drop a comment below. I read every single one, and your stories inspire me. Now, let me take you back to that November evening when everything changed. I was in my small Brooklyn apartment, grading essays at my kitchen table when my phone buzzed. The text was from Amanda, and I already knew this wouldn't be pleasant. In our parents' Westchester home, Thanksgiving preparations were probably in full swing. I knew because for the past 7 years, I'd been expected to show up early and help, while Amanda arrived fashionably late, fresh from brunch with her Wall Street friends. Family meeting tomorrow at 2 p.m. before dinner, Amanda's text read. Don't be late. Some of us have important things to discuss. Important things. That was Amanda's way of reminding everyone that her life mattered more than mine. I looked down at the essay I'd been reading, a beautiful piece written by one of my 10th graders about overcoming learning disabilities. This student had gone from barely passing to earning straight A's, and the growth I'd witnessed was worth more than any bonus check. But try explaining that to my family. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Mom. Rachel, Amanda's bringing some colleagues to Thanksgiving dinner. Very successful people. Please try to look presentable. And maybe don't mention your job unless someone asks directly. I read that text 3 times. Don't mention your job. As if teaching high school English was something shameful. As if shaping young minds was an embarrassment to be hidden from Amanda's successful friends. The thing is, my family hadn't always been like this. When I first told them I wanted to be a teacher, my mother had smiled and said it was noble. My father had nodded approvingly. Even Amanda had seemed supportive. But that was before she landed her job at Meridian Capital. Before she started making 6 figures at 24. Before every family gathering became an opportunity for her to showcase her success while diminishing mine. I remembered last Christmas when she'd given me a pity gift. A $500 Visa card with a note that said, I know teachers don't make much. Treat yourself. The card had felt like a slap wrapped in generosity. My mother had actually thanked Amanda for being so generous to your struggling sister. Struggling. I wasn't struggling. I lived modestly because I chose a career focused on impact, not income. But somewhere along the way, my family had rewritten my story. Rachel couldn't cut it in the competitive world, so she became a teacher. Rachel doesn't have Amanda's ambition. Rachel settled. I looked around my apartment. It was small, yes, but it was mine. The walls were covered with thank you notes from former students. One entire shelf held books I'd collected over the years, many with inscriptions from students who'd gone on to college and wanted to thank the teacher who believed in them. On my desk sat a framed photo from last year's graduation where 3 of my students, all first-generation college students, held acceptance letters to Ivy League schools. But none of that mattered to my family, because in their world, success was measured in dollars and titles, not in lives changed or futures shaped. My phone rang. It was my best friend, Jennifer, another teacher at my school. Please tell me you're not going to that Thanksgiving disaster, she said without preamble. Jennifer knew my family well. She'd witnessed enough holiday stories to write a book about toxic family dynamics. "I'm going," I said quietly. "Rachel, no. Last time you came back in tears because Amanda spent the entire dinner talking about her promotion, while your mom kept apologizing to her friends for your modest lifestyle." She was right. Last Easter, Amanda had literally interrupted my story about a student winning a writing competition to announce her latest bonus. My mother had immediately pivoted the conversation, as if my student's achievement was trivial compared to Amanda's paycheck. "I know," I said, "but they're still my family." "Family doesn't treat you like you're less than," Jennifer countered. "You teach at one of the most prestigious private schools in Manhattan. Do they even know that?" That was the thing. They didn't know. They'd never asked. When I mentioned I was teaching at Ashford Academy, my mother had simply said, "Well, at least you have a job." She had no idea that Ashford was where New York's elite sent their children. She didn't know that my student roster read like a who's who of Manhattan power families. She'd never asked about my teaching load, my curriculum, my students, or the countless hours I spent mentoring kids through academic challenges and personal crises. To my family, I was just a teacher, and in their minds, that meant I was just getting by. "Come to Friendsgiving with us instead," Jennifer offered. "Marcus is making his famous turkey, and we'd love to have you." I was tempted. Tempted. But something stubborn in me refused to give up. "I'll think about it," I promised, though we both knew I'd end up at my parents' house, sitting at a table where I felt invisible. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the family meeting Amanda had mentioned. What could possibly require a formal meeting before Thanksgiving dinner? I had a sinking feeling it had something to do with showcasing her success and, by extension, highlighting my supposed lack thereof. I pulled out my laptop and opened my email. There, at the top of my inbox, was a message from Dr. Catherine Winters, Ashford Academy's headmistress. "Rachel, just a reminder about parent-teacher conferences next week. The Harrison family specifically requested extra time to discuss their daughter's remarkable progress. They're thrilled with your mentorship." The Harrison family. I smiled despite myself. Their daughter, Sophie, had started the year convinced she hated reading and would never be good at writing. Now, 3 months later, she was leading class discussions on Shakespeare and had submitted a short story to a national competition. Her transformation had been remarkable, and I'd spent countless after-school hours working with her, building her confidence one paragraph at a time. But could I tell my family about Sophie's success? Could I explain that watching a student discover their own potential was worth more than any corner office or year-end bonus? They wouldn't understand. They'd never understood. I scrolled through more emails. One from a former student, now a junior at Columbia, thanking me for writing her recommendation letter and telling me she'd just declared an English major because of my class. Another from a parent asking if I'd consider tutoring their younger child next year because their older son credited me with his acceptance to Stanford. These emails were my truth. This was my success. But it was invisible success. Quiet, unmeasurable in dollars, impossible to brag about at cocktail parties. At midnight, I finally made my decision. I'd go to Thanksgiving. I'd sit through Amanda's performance. I'd endure my mother's apologetic glances and my father's well-meaning but painful attempts to justify my career choice to strangers. I'd do it because some part of me still hoped that one day they'd see me for who I really was. What I didn't know was that this Thanksgiving would be different. This time, the truth would come out in a way none of us could have predicted. Thanksgiving morning arrived cold and gray. I took the train from Brooklyn to Westchester, watching the city give way to suburbs, expensive homes appearing like monuments to success. My parents' house sat on 2 acres, bought with my father's corporate salary and carefully maintained to impress the neighbors. I arrived at exactly 2 p.m. for the mysterious family meeting. Amanda's Mercedes was already in the driveway, parked at an angle that suggested she owned the place. My 10-year-old Honda looked pathetic next to it. Another visual reminder of our different stations in life. My mother opened the door before I could knock. "Oh, good, you're here. And you wore that?" She gestured at my simple sweater and jeans. "You said 2 p.m., Mom. Dinner isn't until 6, boss." "Yes, but Amanda's colleagues will be here soon, and never mind. Come in. Your father and Amanda are in the living room." I walked into the living room to find Amanda holding court. As usual. She wore an outfit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Designer everything, from her handbag to her shoes. My father sat in his usual chair, already looking tired. "Finally," Amanda said, not looking up from her phone. "I have an announcement and I wanted the family to hear it together before my colleagues arrive." My mother sat down eagerly. "Is it about another promotion?" Amanda smiled, and I recognized that smile. It was the same one she'd worn when she announced her engagement to Brandon last year. A smile that said, "Watch me win at life again." "Even better," Amanda said, setting down her phone with dramatic flair. "I've been selected for the Meridian Capital Executive Track Program. Out of 500 candidates across the country, only 10 were chosen. It's basically a guarantee of making partner before I'm 35. My mother actually squealed. "Amanda, that's incredible!" My father stood up to hug her. "Sweetheart, congratulations. We're so proud of you." I felt the familiar tightness in my chest. "Congratulations, Amanda. That's really impressive." She finally looked at me. "Thanks. I know it's hard to understand from where you're sitting, but this is a really big deal. Life-changing, actually." From where I'm sitting, as if I was somehow beneath understanding her achievement. "I understand," I said quietly. "It sounds like they recognized your talent and hard work." "Exactly," my mother chimed in. "Your sister has worked so hard, Rachel. 80-hour weeks, constant networking, always pushing herself. That's what success requires." The implication hung in the air. Unlike you, who chose the easy path. "Anyway," Amanda continued, standing up and smoothing her designer dress, "I'm bringing 3 colleagues tonight. They're all senior vice presidents, and one of them, Jackson Reeves, is definitely partner material. I want to make a good impression, so..." She looked directly at me. "Maybe we keep the conversation focused on interesting topics?" "Interesting topics," I repeated slowly. "You know, career stuff, investments, travel, not..." She waved her hand vaguely in my direction. "Teaching stories or whatever." My mother jumped in quickly. "Rachel, what Amanda means is that these are very accomplished people. They might not relate to my job," I finished. "You want me to pretend I don't exist so I don't embarrass you?" "Don't be dramatic," Amanda snapped. "I'm just saying, maybe don't dominate the conversation with stories about grading papers or whatever it is you do all day. Whatever it is, I do all day. 7 years of this. 7 years of being treated like my career was a hobby, like my choice to teach was a failure rather than a calling." "I'll try to keep my teacher stories to a minimum," I said, standing up. "When do your colleagues arrive?" "Around 4 p.m. We'll have drinks and appetizers before dinner." Amanda picked up her phone again, already dismissing me. "Oh, and Mom told you to dress nicely, right? First impressions matter." I looked down at my sweater. "I'll change." In my childhood bedroom, now a guest room with barely any trace of my existence, I sat on the bed and pulled out my phone. Jennifer had texted, "How's it going? Do you need an extraction team?" I almost laughed. Amanda announced some executive program. Now I'm supposed to hide the fact that I'm a teacher. so I don't embarrass her in front of her colleagues. Jennifer's response was immediate. Rachel Morrison, you are a phenomenal teacher. Her colleagues should be so lucky to meet you. Want me to send you that article from the Times that mentioned you? She was referring to a piece the New York Times had done last year about innovative teaching methods in private schools. They'd featured my classroom and my approach to teaching classic literature through modern connections. The article had been complimentary, but I'd never mentioned it to my family. What was the point? Thanks, I texted back. I'll survive. Talk later. I changed into a nicer outfit, not designer but presentable, and headed back downstairs. My mother was in the kitchen, arranging expensive cheeses on a board. Can I help? I asked. Oh, honey, no, I've got it. Why don't you just mingle when people arrive? Try to look engaged even if the conversation is over your head. Over my head. As if discussing finance was somehow more intellectually demanding than analyzing Dostoevsky or teaching teenagers to think critically about complex texts. The doorbell rang at 4:15 p.m. I heard Amanda's voice go up an octave as she greeted her colleagues. Welcome! Come in! Come in! Thank you so much for coming. I walked into the foyer to find 3 people in expensive coats handing bottles of wine to my mother. 2 men and 1 woman, all dressed like they'd just left a boardroom, which they probably had. Everyone, this is my family, Amanda announced with a sweeping gesture. My parents, David and Patricia, and my sister Rachel. One of the men, tall, dark-haired, probably in his 40s, extended his hand to me. Jackson Reeves, nice to meet you. Rachel Morrison, I replied, shaking his hand. Welcome. The other man introduced himself as Marcus Chen, and the woman was Diane Patterson. They all had that polished, confident air of people who'd never questioned their place in the world. What do you do, Rachel? Diane asked politely as we moved into the living room. Before I could answer, Amanda jumped in. Rachel's a teacher. High school English. It's very fulfilling for her. The way she said fulfilling made it sound like a consolation prize, like I'd found meaning in my small life because I couldn't achieve real success. Teaching is wonderful, Marcus said with a kind smile. My daughter had a teacher who changed her life. Mrs. Patterson at Brooklyn Heights Academy. Changed her whole relationship with math. That's lovely, I said. Teachers can really make a difference. Where do you teach? Jackson asked, accepting a glass of wine from my father. Ashford Academy, I said. In Manhattan? There was a beat of silence. Jackson's eyebrows went up slightly. Ashford? That's quite prestigious. Amanda laughed, a little too loudly. I mean, it's a private school, but Rachel's always preferred the academic world to the corporate one. She's not really driven by money or advancement. Ashford Academy is one of the top prep schools in the country, Diane said slowly, looking at me with new interest. My boss sends his kids there. It's nearly impossible to get a teaching position there. I felt the room shift slightly. I've been there for 3 years, I said simply. Before that, I taught at Dalton. Another pause. Anyone familiar with New York private schools knew that Dalton and Ashford were the gold standard, elite institutions where only the best educators were hired. Dalton and Ashford, Marcus repeated. That's an impressive trajectory. Those schools are incredibly selective about their faculty. Amanda's smile had frozen on her face. Well, Rachel's always been good at school stuff. Very academic. Just not interested in the business world. The conversation moved on, but I noticed Jackson watching me with curiosity. Throughout cocktail hour, Amanda made sure to steer every conversation back to finance, her accomplishments, and the executive program she'd been selected for. Every time someone asked me a question, she found a way to minimize my response or change the subject. When we finally sat down for dinner, Amanda had orchestrated the seating so that she was at the head of the table with her colleagues flanking her, while I was relegated to the far end next to my father. The message was clear. She was the star of this show. Midway through dinner, my mother brought out photo albums, something she'd never done before at a holiday meal. "I just thought you'd all like to see some pictures of Amanda's achievements over the years," she said, beaming. I watched as she showed Amanda's college graduation, her first day at Meridian Capital, her engagement photos, various awards ceremonies. Each photo came with a story about Amanda's excellence, her ambition, her bright future. There were no photos of me, not my college graduation, not my first teaching award, not the picture from the New York Times article. I had been edited out of the family success story. "Amanda has always been exceptional," my mother told the table. "Even as a child, she had this drive. We knew she'd do something important with her life." I felt something crack inside me. 7 years of this. 7 years of being the footnote in Amanda's success story. "What about Rachel?" Jackson asked suddenly. "Any photos of her achievements?" My mother looked flustered. "Oh, well, teaching doesn't really have the same kind of milestone moments. Not like Amanda's career." "Actually," I said quietly, surprised by my own voice, "I won the Ashford Excellence in Teaching Award last year, and 3 of my students were accepted to Ivy League schools, which was a first for their families." Amanda laughed. "That's sweet, Rachel, but these guys deal with million-dollar accounts. They probably don't relate to gold star stickers and participation trophies." The table went silent. Even my parents looked uncomfortable. "Amanda," my father said softly, "that's not—" "I'm just being honest, Dad. Rachel chose a nice, safe career where she doesn't have to compete or take risks. That's fine, but let's not pretend it's the same as what I do." Jackson set down his wine glass. "Actually, Amanda, I think you might be." But Amanda was on a roll now, fueled by wine and the need to be the center of attention. "Rachel has always been like this, content with less. Content with her little apartment and her teacher salary and her small life. And that's okay. Not everyone has ambition. Not everyone wants more." The words hit like physical blows. Small life. Content with less. No ambition. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. Everyone looked at me. "Excuse me," I said quietly. "I need some air." I walked out onto the back porch, the November cold biting through my thin sweater. Behind me, I could hear muffled voices. My mother trying to smooth things over. Amanda laughing too loudly. My father's low, concerned tone. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and opened my email. There, at the top, was a message I'd received yesterday from the Harrison family. The subject line read, "Thank you for everything." I opened it and read, "Dear Ms. Morrison, we wanted to reach out before the holiday to express our deep gratitude for the incredible work you've done with Sophie this semester. As you know, she struggled for years with reading and writing, and previous teachers told us she simply wasn't cut out for advanced English. You're the first teacher who believed in her potential and took the time to unlock it. Sophie's transformation has been remarkable. More than her improved grades, we've watched her confidence grow. She now reads for pleasure, writes in a journal, and talks about becoming a writer someday. You gave our daughter a gift we can never repay. We hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. You deserve to be celebrated not just as an excellent teacher, but as someone who genuinely changes lives. With deep appreciation, Michael and Catherine Harrison." I read it twice, then looked up at the stars. Michael Harrison. The name was familiar, but I couldn't quite place why. The porch door opened. I expected my mother or maybe my father, but it was Jackson Reeves. He closed the door behind him and leaned against the railing. "Your sister has had a lot to drink," he said quietly. "That's not an excuse, just an observation." It's not the wine talking, I replied. This is what she actually thinks. What they all think. Jackson was quiet for a moment. Can I ask you something? You teach at Ashford Academy. That's one of the most competitive teaching positions in the country. How did your family come to believe you'd settled for less? I laughed bitterly. I never told them. I never told them about Ashford's reputation, or the competitive hiring process, or what it means to teach there. They assumed I was teaching at some struggling public school, barely getting by, and I just let them believe it. Why? Because every time I tried to share something about my career, they'd minimize it or change the subject to Amanda. Eventually, I stopped trying. It was easier to be invisible than to constantly fight for recognition. Jackson nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I think teaching at Ashford is far more impressive than most corporate jobs. The caliber of educator they hire is extraordinary. You seem to know a lot about Ashford, I said. I should. My daughter goes there. Emma Reeves. She's a sophomore. My breath caught. Emma Reeves. Of course. The quiet girl in my third period class who'd just written a beautiful analysis of The Great Gatsby. Jackson Reeves was Emma's father. He saw the recognition on my face and smiled. You teach her English class, third period. Emma's your daughter, I said slowly. She's incredibly bright. Her essay on moral ambiguity in Gatsby was one of the best I've read in years. Jackson's face lit up. She spent hours on that essay. She said you were the first teacher who made her actually care about literature. Before your class, she was planning to drop humanities entirely and focus only on STEM. We stood in silence for a moment. Inside, I could hear Amanda's laugh, sharp and performative. Your sister doesn't know, does she? Jackson said. She has no idea who you actually are or what you've achieved. No, I admitted. And honestly, at this point, I'm not sure it matters. In her mind, I'll always be the sister who settled, who took the safe path, who lacks ambition. That's not what I see, Jackson said. I see someone who chose impact over income. Someone who could probably make triple her salary in the private sector but instead dedicates her life to shaping young minds. That's not settling. That's courage. I felt tears prick my eyes. When was the last time someone in my family had said anything like that to me? Come back inside, Jackson said gently. I think there are some things your sister needs to hear. I don't want to cause a scene, I started. But he shook his head. Sometimes scenes need to be caused. Sometimes the truth needs to be uncomfortable. We walked back into the dining room together. Amanda was in the middle of a story about closing a major deal, gesturing dramatically with her wine glass. She paused when she saw us. There you are, she said brightly. We were just talking about… Actually, Amanda, Jackson interrupted, his voice firm but not unkind. I think we need to talk about something you said earlier. The room went quiet. My mother's fork froze halfway to her mouth. My father straightened in his chair. You said your sister chose a safe career without ambition or competition, Jackson continued. I need to correct that misconception. Amanda's smile faltered. I just meant… Your sister teaches at Ashford Academy, Jackson said. Do you know what that means? It's a private school, Amanda said dismissively. I'm aware. It's one of the top 5 prep schools in the nation, Jackson continued. The teaching position your sister holds is more competitive than most corporate jobs. For her position alone, there were over 500 applicants. The acceptance rate for faculty at Ashford is lower than Harvard's acceptance rate for students. I saw confusion flicker across Amanda's face. Marcus Chen leaned forward, interested now. More than that, Jackson went on. Ashford doesn't just hire anyone. They hire the absolute best, educators who are leaders in their field. Your sister isn't just a teacher, Amanda. She's one of the most respected English educators in New York private education. That's, Amanda started, but Diane interrupted. Wait, Rachel Morrison. You wrote that piece in Education Weekly about teaching classical literature to Gen Z students. I read that article. My daughter's teacher used your methods. I nodded slowly. I did write that, yes. My mother was staring at me like I was a stranger. You never mentioned an article. I tried to, I said quietly. Last Christmas, you changed the subject to talk about Amanda's bonus. Jackson wasn't finished. My daughter is in Miss Morrison's class, Emma, and I can tell you that your sister has done more than teach her English. She's mentored her, believed in her, and helped her discover a passion for literature that Emma didn't know she had. That's not a small achievement. That's life-changing. Amanda's face had gone pale. I didn't know, because you never asked, I said, my voice steady now. In 7 years, you've never once asked me about my students, my curriculum, my achievements, or my actual life. You created a story where I was the failure and you were the success, and you never questioned it. Rachel, that's not fair, my mother began. Isn't it? I turned to her. When was the last time you asked about my job? When was the last time you came to see my classroom or met my students, or acknowledged that what I do matters? The silence was deafening. Marcus Chen spoke up. For what it's worth, I'd like to add something. I have a friend on Ashford's board of trustees. They've been talking about Ms. Morrison as a potential department head. That's an extraordinary honor for someone still in their 20s. Department head. I'd been approached about the position last month but hadn't made a decision yet. I definitely hadn't told my family because, well, what was the point? Department head? My father repeated. Rachel, that's wonderful. It's being considered, I said. Nothing's official. Still, Diane said, looking at me with genuine respect. That's remarkable. Department head at Ashford at your age? That's the kind of leadership position most people don't reach until their 40s or 50s. Amanda set down her wine glass. Her hands were shaking. I didn't know any of this. Because you never cared to know, I said. You've spent 7 years mocking my career, my choices, my life. You've made me feel small and unsuccessful and invisible. And I let you. I stopped defending myself because it was easier to be dismissed than to constantly fight for basic respect. I thought, Amanda's voice cracked. I thought you were just getting by, teaching at some regular school, barely making rent. I live in Brooklyn by choice, I said. I could afford Westchester if I wanted to. I have 0 debt, a healthy retirement account, and I do work I love. But you never asked about any of that. You assumed I was struggling because my success didn't look like yours. My mother had tears in her eyes. Rachel, we didn't mean to. Yes, you did, I interrupted gently. You meant every word, every dismissal, every minimization, every time you apologized for my existence to your friends. You meant it because in your value system, I'd failed. I hadn't climbed a corporate ladder or made 6 figures or impressed your country club friends, so I was a disappointment. That's not true, my father said, but his voice lacked conviction. Dad, you literally told your golf partner last summer that you had one daughter who's very successful and one who teaches. As if those 2 things are mutually exclusive. He had the grace to look ashamed. Jackson stood up. I think I should go. This feels like a family conversation. He looked at me. Ms. Morrison, Emma is lucky to have you as a teacher. I hope you know how much impact you have. Thank you, I managed. Marcus and Diane stood as well, both looking uncomfortable. We should head out too, Diane said. Thank you for dinner. As Amanda walked her colleagues to the door, I heard Jackson say something to her that I couldn't quite make out. Her face went even paler. When she came back, the dining room felt like a tomb. My mother was crying quietly. My father stared at his plate. Amanda stood in the doorway looking lost. "I'm going to go," I said, standing up. "Thank you for dinner." "Rachel, please," my mother said. "Let's talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about, Mom. You've made it clear. Where I stand in this family, I'm the acceptable disappointment, the one you're not proud of but tolerate because blood is blood." "That's not true," Amanda said, her voice small. "I am proud of you. I just I didn't understand what you actually do." "Because you never asked," I repeated. "And honestly, Amanda, even if I taught at a struggling public school and barely scraped by, I would still deserve respect. My value isn't determined by my salary or prestige, but you've never been able to see that." I grabbed my coat and purse. My mother stood up. "Please don't leave like this. It's Thanksgiving." "And I've spent every Thanksgiving for 7 years feeling like I don't belong at this table," I said. "I'm done pretending that doesn't hurt." I walked out, got into my Honda, and drove back to Brooklyn. My phone started buzzing before I even hit the highway. Texts from my mother, my father, even Amanda. I turned it on silent and kept driving. When I got home, I sat in my apartment surrounded by my books and my students' thank you notes and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Yes, it hurt. Yes, I was angry. But I'd finally stood up for myself. I'd finally stopped accepting crumbs of recognition and demanded to be seen. My phone buzzed with a voicemail. I almost didn't listen, but something made me press play. It was Jackson Reeves. "Ms. Morrison, this is Jackson. I wanted to apologize for the awkwardness tonight. I hope I didn't overstep. But I also wanted you to know that what I said was true. Emma comes home excited about your class. She talks about your discussions, your insights, your approach to literature. You've given my daughter something I couldn't buy with any amount of money, a genuine love of learning. That's not a small thing. That's everything. I hope your family realizes what they have before it's too late." I played the message twice, then finally allowed myself to cry, not from sadness, but from relief. Someone saw me. Someone understood. The next morning, Black Friday, I woke up to 47 text messages. Most were from my mother, increasingly frantic. A few from my father. Several from Amanda. I made coffee and finally started reading them. "Mom. Rachel, please call me. We need to talk." "Mom. I've been up all night. I'm so sorry." "Mom. I didn't realize how we'd been making you feel." "Dad. Your mother and I would like to speak with you when you're ready." "Amanda. Rachel, I'm sorry. I really am. I was drunk and stupid and I said terrible things." "Amanda. Can we please talk? I want to understand." "Amanda. Jackson told me something after they left that I can't stop thinking about." That last message caught my attention. "What had Jackson said?" I texted back. "What did Jackson tell you?" The response came immediately. "Can I call you?" I sighed. "Fine." My phone rang instantly. Amanda's voice was hoarse like she'd been crying. "Rachel, I'm so sorry. You said that in your texts." "No, I mean, I'm really sorry." After everyone left, Jackson pulled me aside. He told me that his daughter Emma talks about you constantly, that you're her favorite teacher. And then he said something that just destroyed me. I waited. He said, "Your sister is the kind of teacher who changes lives. She's the teacher my daughter will remember 40 years from now. She's the teacher who makes kids believe in themselves. And you have no idea because you've been too busy building your own pedestal to notice that your sister's been building futures." Rachel, I don't have that. Nobody talks about me like that. Nobody's life is better because they know me. I didn't know what to say. I've been jealous of you, Amanda continued, her voice breaking. The whole time I've been mocking you, I've been jealous, because you have purpose. You have meaning. You go to work every day and actually make a difference, and I push money around spreadsheets, that's it. That's all I do. Amanda? No, let me finish. I convinced myself that making more money meant I was more successful, more valuable, more worthy. And I turned you into the failure so I could feel like the winner. But Rachel, you're not the failure. I am. I've spent 7 years tearing you down to build myself up, and I hate who that makes me. I sat down on my couch, phone pressed to my ear, processing her words. Jackson said one more thing, Amanda whispered. He said, "The saddest part is that your sister probably has no idea how many lives she's touched. She's probably never told anyone because people like you made her believe her achievements don't matter." And he's right. You never told us about the articles, the awards, the students, because we made you feel like none of it mattered. It's not just you, Amanda. It's all of us. Mom, Dad, me. We created this narrative where you were the disappointment, and we never questioned it. We never looked deeper. We never asked. She was crying now. How do I fix this? How do I fix what I've done? I don't know if you can, I said honestly. 7 years is a long time to feel invisible. Please let me try, please. I'll do anything. I looked around my apartment, at the evidence of a life well lived, a career well built, impact well made. I need time, Amanda. I need to figure out if I even want a relationship with a family that only sees my value after someone else points it out. That's fair, she whispered. That's more than fair. We hung up, and I sat in silence. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was an email from Sophie Harrison's mother, Catherine. "Dear Ms. Morrison, I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Sophie wanted to share something with you. She's been accepted into a young writer's workshop at Columbia for the spring semester. The application required a personal essay, and she used the one she wrote in your class about finding her voice. She said you taught her that her words matter. Thank you for believing in our daughter. Happy Thanksgiving." I read it 3 times. Then I opened my laptop and looked at my inbox. Hundreds of emails over the years from students, from parents, from colleagues. Every single one a testament to impact that couldn't be measured in dollars. My phone rang again. I almost didn't answer, but the caller ID showed Jennifer. "Tell me everything," she demanded. "I've been dying since your text last night." I told her the whole story. The family meeting, Amanda's public humiliation, Jackson revealing my actual credentials, the aftermath. "Holy shit," Jennifer breathed when I finished. "Rachel, this is huge. Your family finally knows the truth." "They know some of the truth," I corrected. "They know I teach at a prestigious school. They don't know about half of what I've actually accomplished because I've spent 7 years hiding it." "So show them," Jennifer said. "Stop hiding. Stop protecting their egos. Let them see exactly who you are." "Why?" I asked. "So they can feel worse? So Amanda can cry and apologize and we can all pretend things are different now?" "No," Jennifer said firmly. "So you can stop carrying their shame. Rachel, you've been living like your success is something to hide, something to minimize, something to apologize for. Stop it. You're a phenomenal teacher. You've won awards. You've been published. You've changed lives. Own it." I thought about that. She was right. I'd spent so long trying not to make waves, not to seem like I was bragging, not to make Amanda feel bad, that I'd erased my own achievements. "What would that even look like?" I asked. "Start with your family. Send them your CV. Send them the articles. Send them the awards. Let them see exactly what they've been dismissing for 7 years." Over the next few days, I did exactly that. I compiled everything. Every article I'd written, every award I'd won, Every piece of recognition I'd received: the Education Weekly piece, the New York Times feature, the Ashford Excellence Award, letters from students and parents, photos from the Young Writers Workshop I'd founded, evidence of conferences I'd spoken at, curriculum I'd developed, mentorship programs I'd created. I put it all in a folder and titled it, "What You Never Asked About." Then I sent it to my parents and Amanda with a simple note. "This is who I've been while you've been apologizing for my existence." The responses came within hours. My mother called, sobbing. "Rachel, I had no idea. How did I not know? How did I miss all of this?" My father sent a long email. "I'm ashamed that I never asked. I'm ashamed that I let my own narrow definition of success blind me to your remarkable achievements. You've built something I never could, a legacy of changed lives. I hope you can forgive me." Amanda didn't call or email. Instead, she showed up at my apartment on Sunday morning, looking like she hadn't slept in days. "Can I come in?" she asked. I hesitated, then stepped aside. She walked into the living room and looked around, really looked, for the first time. The thank you notes covering one wall, the bookshelf full of teaching resources and student-gifted novels, the photos from graduations and award ceremonies. "I read everything you sent," she said. "Every article, every award, every letter. And Rachel, I realized something. I don't have anything like this. Nothing. No one's ever written me a letter saying I changed their life. No one's ever said they're better because they knew me. Amanda, I have money," she continued. "I have titles and promotions and a nice car. But I don't have impact. I don't have meaning. And I've spent 7 years mocking you for having exactly what I wish I had." She sat down on my couch, tears streaming down her face. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not asking you to pretend this didn't happen. I just need you to know that I see you now. Really see you. And I'm in awe of what you've built." I sat down across from her. "Why did you do it, Amanda? Why did you need to make me feel small?" "Because I felt small," she whispered. "I felt like a fraud. Like I'd chased all these external markers of success, but none of it meant anything. And you had real success. Success that mattered. And I couldn't stand it." "So, you convinced yourself I was the failure?" "Yes. And I convinced everyone else too. And now I see how deeply I hurt you. And I don't know how to fix it." We sat in silence for a long moment. "I need you to understand something," I finally said. "I'm not going back to being the invisible sister. I'm not going back to shrinking myself to make you comfortable. If we're going to have a relationship going forward, it has to be as equals. Real equals. Not just words." "I understand," Amanda said. "I want that too. I want to actually know you, not the version of you I made up." "It's going to take time," I warned her. 7 years of damage doesn't heal overnight." "I know. I'll wait as long as it takes." After she left, I sat on my couch feeling emotionally exhausted but somehow lighter. The truth was out. The facade had crumbled. And for the first time in 7 years, I wasn't carrying the weight of their misconceptions. That week, something unexpected happened. Jackson Reeves called me. "Ms. Morrison, I hope this isn't overstepping, but would you be willing to meet for coffee? I have a proposition I'd like to discuss." We met at a cafe near Ashford on Tuesday afternoon. Jackson got straight to the point. "I sit on several nonprofit boards focused on education," he said. "One of them is launching a new teacher mentorship program, experienced educators training and supporting new teachers in high-needs schools. When I saw your CV and read about your work, I immediately thought of you. Would you be interested in serving on the advisory board?" I stared at him. "You want me on an advisory board?" "I want more than that. I want you to help design the program. Your approach to Teaching, your methods, your ability to connect with students. That's exactly what new teachers need to learn. And frankly, your story about succeeding without recognition, about finding meaning and impact rather than accolades, that's the mindset we want to cultivate. Jackson, I don't know what to say. Say yes. The position comes with a small stipend, not enough to change your life, but enough to recognize your time. More importantly, it's a chance to multiply your impact. Instead of reaching 30 students a year, you'd be helping to train teachers who'll reach thousands. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Yes, absolutely, yes. He smiled. Excellent. First board meeting is next month. I'll send you the details. And Ms. Morrison, thank you for being the kind of teacher you are. Emma came home yesterday talking about the discussion your class had on ethical responsibility in literature. She's been thinking about it non-stop. That's teaching that matters. When I got home, I found an email from Dr. Winters, Ashford's headmistress. Rachel, I wanted to formally offer you the position of English department head, effective next fall. Your leadership, your innovative teaching methods, and your dedication to students make you the obvious choice. Please let me know your decision by the end of the semester. Also, the Harrisons have requested a meeting with me. I believe they want to endow a scholarship in your name for students interested in studying English. More details to follow. A scholarship in my name? I sat back, overwhelmed. This was my success. Not loud, not flashy, not measured in bonuses or promotions, but real, meaningful, lasting. My phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. Mom and Dad want to have a family dinner. They want to celebrate you properly this time. No pressure, only if you're ready. I thought about it for a long time. Then I texted back. I'll come. But I'm bringing Jennifer. And we're having the dinner at a restaurant, not at home. Neutral territory. Her response was immediate. Perfect. You choose the place. This is your night. The dinner happened 2 weeks later. My parents arrived early looking nervous. Amanda came alone. She and her fiancé Brandon had called off the engagement, though she didn't elaborate and I didn't push. When I arrived with Jennifer, my mother hugged me tighter than she had in years. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. My father handed me an envelope. Inside was a check, a large one. This is for that scholarship the Harrisons are setting up in your name, he said. We'd like to contribute. We can't undo the past, but we'd like to invest in your future. I was speechless. Jennifer squeezed my hand under the table. The dinner was different from any family meal I'd ever had. They asked questions, real questions, about my students, my teaching philosophy, my plans for the department head role. They listened when I talked about the advisory board position and the mentorship program. They asked to see photos from my classroom. At one point, my mother pulled out her phone. I've been telling everyone about you, she said, scrolling through texts. The book club, the garden society, everyone. I sent them the New York Times article and the Education Weekly piece. Everyone's so impressed, Rachel, and I'm proud. I should have been proud all along. Amanda was quieter than usual. Toward the end of the dinner, she cleared her throat. I have something to say. We all turned to her. I'm leaving Meridian Capital, she announced. I've been accepted into a teacher certification program. Starting this summer, I'm going to become a teacher. Silence. Then my mother said, What about the executive track program? I turned it down, Amanda said, looking at me. Rachel, after Thanksgiving, I couldn't stop thinking about what Jackson said, about purpose and meaning and impact. I've been successful by every metric that society values, but I'm empty. I've been empty for years, so I'm starting over. Amanda, that's a huge decision, I said carefully. I know. And I'm not doing it to compete with you or copy you. I'm doing it because watching you live with purpose made me realize I've been living for applause. I want to matter. I want to help people. And teaching feels like the right path. My father looked shell-shocked. My mother seemed torn between pride and confusion. Jennifer caught my eye and smiled. It won't be easy, I told Amanda. Teaching is incredibly demanding. The hours are long, the pay is modest, and the emotional toll is real. I know, she said. I'm not naive about it. But for the first time in my life, I'm excited about something that doesn't come with a title or a salary bump. That has to mean something. After dinner, as we were saying goodbye, my mother pulled me aside. Can you forgive us? She asked. Can you forgive me for being so blind? I thought about it honestly. I think so, I said. Eventually. But Mom, things can't go back to how they were. I can't be invisible anymore. I can't shrink myself to fit your idea of who I should be. I don't want you to, she said. I want to know the real Rachel. The successful, accomplished, remarkable Rachel. I've missed out on 7 years of celebrating you. I don't want to miss any more. As Jennifer and I walked back to the subway, she linked her arm through mine. How do you feel? Weird, I admitted. Good weird. Like I've been holding my breath for 7 years and I can finally exhale. Your sister's really going to become a teacher? Apparently. Think she can handle it? I considered. Maybe. If she's serious about the work and not just chasing a different kind of validation. Teaching will humble her real fast. Good, Jennifer said. She could use some humbling. The months that followed brought changes I never expected. The scholarship in my name, the Morrison Fellowship for Emerging Voices, was established. With contributions from the Harrisons and my parents, it would provide full funding for one Ashford student each year to attend a summer writing intensive. The first recipient was Sophie Harrison, who cried when Dr. Winters announced it in assembly. Ms. Morrison believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, Sophie said in her acceptance speech. This scholarship isn't just money. It's proof that someone sees my potential. I sat in the audience trying not to cry as students and faculty applauded. This was legacy. This was impact that would ripple out for years. The advisory board work was challenging and fulfilling. I helped design a curriculum that focused not just on teaching methods, but on building resilience, finding meaning, and connecting with students who'd been overlooked by the system. It felt like everything I'd learned from being overlooked myself was suddenly valuable. Amanda started her teacher certification program and lasted exactly 3 weeks before calling me in tears. Rachel, this is so hard. The readings, the observations, the lesson planning. How did you do this? You want the truth? I asked. Yes. I loved it. Even when it was hard, even when I was exhausted, I loved it. If you don't love it, Amanda, this career will break you. There was a long pause. I think I might love it, she said quietly. I observed a classroom yesterday, and this teacher was working with a kid who was struggling with reading. Just really patient, really kind, and by the end of the session, the kid read an entire paragraph. And the look on that kid's face, Rachel, that's what I want. I want to be the person who helps create that moment. Then you're going to be fine, I said. Just remember, teaching isn't about you, it's about them. The kids. Always. I'm starting to understand that. My relationship with my family slowly rebuilt itself, but it was different now. Better. More honest. My mother came to visit my classroom and stayed for an entire day, watching me teach. Afterward, she was quiet for a long time. What are you thinking? I asked. I'm thinking that I watched you command a room full of teenagers and make them care about Shakespeare, she said. I'm thinking that's harder than anything I've ever done. And I'm thinking I was a fool to ever dismiss it. My father started reading everything I published. When I gave a keynote speech at an education conference, both my parents drove 4 hours to attend. They sat in the front row, and when I finished, my mother was crying. "That was my daughter up there," she told the person next to her. "That brilliant woman is my daughter." As for Jackson Reeves, he became an unexpected friend and mentor. We'd meet quarterly to discuss the advisory board work, but our conversations ranged far beyond that. He'd built a successful career in finance, but found his deepest satisfaction in his nonprofit work. "Money is just money," he told me over coffee one day. "It can buy comfort and security, but it can't buy meaning." You figured that out at 22. Most people never figure it out at all. "Amanda's figuring it out now," I said. "How's she doing in the program?" "Struggling, but in a good way. In a way that's making her grow." He smiled. "Emma asked me the other day why her Aunt Amanda decided to become a teacher. I told her that sometimes people need to see real success before they understand what it looks like." 1 year after that catastrophic Thanksgiving, we gathered again at my parents' house. This time felt completely different. Amanda arrived in jeans and a sweater, not designer anything. She'd been student teaching at a Title I school in the Bronx and had stories. Real stories about real kids and real challenges. "I have this student, Marcus," she said over dinner. "He's been labeled a troublemaker for years, but I stayed after school with him last week, and we just talked. Turns out he's acting out because he's reading 3 grades below level and he's embarrassed. So I've been working with him every day after school, and Rachel, he's improving. Like, really improving." I saw the light in her eyes. She'd found it. The thing that made teaching worth it. "That's the job," I said. "Finding the kid everyone else gave up on and refusing to give up yourself." My mother had invited some of her friends. Not for Amanda to show off, but for me to share my work. I brought a presentation about the mentorship program, and these women who'd once pitied me for my modest career now listened with genuine interest. One of them, Mrs. Chen, approached me afterward. "My grandson is struggling in school," she said. "The teachers say he's lazy, but I think he's just lost. Would you have any advice?" We talked for 30 minutes about learning differences, finding the right support, believing in potential overperformance. When she left, she hugged me. "Thank you," she whispered. "You've given me hope." That night, after everyone had gone home, I helped my mother clean up. She was washing dishes, and I was drying when she said, "I owe you a bigger apology than I've given." "Mom, no, let me say this. I didn't just dismiss your career. I dismissed you. I made you feel like your worth was tied to your salary and your job title. I taught Amanda to value the same things. And in doing that, I almost lost you both. Amanda almost destroyed herself chasing empty success, and you almost disappeared trying to avoid our judgment." She turned to face me, hands still wet from the sink. "You saved yourself by choosing teaching. You saved Amanda by showing her what real success looks like, and maybe you've saved me too, by forcing me to look at what really matters." I hugged her then, and we both cried. The following spring, I was offered a book deal. A publisher had read my articles and wanted me to write about teaching philosophy and methods. "We want practical guidance mixed with personal narrative," the editor said. "Your story about succeeding without recognition, about finding value in impact, that resonates with so many educators." The day I signed the contract, I called my family. They were ecstatic. My father asked if he could come to the book signing whenever it happened. My mother asked if she could share the news with her friends. Amanda asked if I'd dedicate it to her because "you literally changed my life." "I'm dedicating it to my students," I said. "Every single one of them who taught me what teaching really means." But I added a note in the acknowledgments. "To my family, who eventually learned to see." Better late than never. The book came out the following fall. Teaching Beyond Measure. Finding Success and Impact, Not Income. Hit the education bestseller list in its first week. I did a small book tour, speaking at schools and conferences about the themes that had shaped my career: value, purpose, meaning, recognition. At every event, teachers approached me with similar stories. My family doesn't understand. I'm treated like I settled. No one sees what I do. I listened to each one and shared what I'd learned. That external validation is nice, but internal knowledge of your worth is essential. Amanda finished her certification program and got hired at the same Bronx school where she'd student taught. Her salary was a fraction of what she'd made at Meridian Capital. Her apartment was smaller. Her lifestyle was simpler. But when I visited her classroom, I saw something I'd never seen before. Amanda looked genuinely happy. "I'm exhausted all the time," she told me, surrounded by stacks of ungraded papers. "I'm broke. I have no social life. And Rachel, I've never been more fulfilled in my entire life." "Welcome to teaching," I said, grinning. "I owe you an apology I never properly gave," she said suddenly. "Not just for Thanksgiving, for everything. For 7 years of making you feel invisible. For 7 years of missing out on knowing my incredible sister because I was too insecure to see past my own ego." "You've apologized, Amanda, many times. But have you forgiven me? Really forgiven me?" I thought about it honestly. "Yes," I said. "I have. Not because you changed careers or because you finally understand, but because I'm too happy with my own life to hold on to anger. Forgiveness isn't for you. It's for me." She hugged me tight. "I want to be like you when I grow up," she whispered. "You're already like you," I said. "And that's going to be enough." 2 years after that transformative Thanksgiving, Jackson Reeves called me with unexpected news. "The school board has an opening," he said. "They want someone with classroom experience, someone who understands teachers and students, someone with innovative ideas. I recommended you." "Jackson, I'm not interested in administration." "It's not administration in the traditional sense. It's curriculum development and teacher support. You'd still teach part-time, but spend the rest developing programs to help other teachers succeed. Basically, it's your advisory board work, but on a larger scale, and with an actual salary that reflects your value." I considered it. "Can I think about it?" "Take all the time you need." That night, I talked to Jennifer. "It sounds amazing," she said. "Scary, but amazing. What's holding you back?" "I love my classroom," I admitted. "I love my students. I'm not sure I want to give that up." "You wouldn't be giving it up. You'd be expanding it. Think about how many students you could impact indirectly by supporting their teachers." She was right. I took the position. My last day as a full-time classroom teacher was bittersweet. My students threw me a surprise party. Sophie Harrison, now a senior, gave a speech that destroyed me. "Ms. Morrison taught me that my voice matters," she said. "She taught me that success isn't about being the loudest or the richest or the most obvious. Success is about impact, about making the world a little bit better with your presence." She changed my life, and now she's going to change so many more lives. That's what real success looks like. I ugly cried. No shame. In my new role, I developed programs focused on supporting teachers, especially those in their first 5 years. I created mentorship initiatives, professional development workshops, and resources for classroom management and student engagement. Every program was built on the same principle: teachers need to be seen, valued, and supported. The work was challenging and deeply rewarding. I wasn't in the classroom every day, but I was helping shape hundreds of classrooms across the district. I was multiplying my impact in ways I'd never imagined possible. Amanda flourished in her teaching career. In her 3rd year, she was nominated for a new Teacher Excellence Award. When she called to tell me, she was crying. Rachel, they see me. They actually see the work I'm doing. My principal wrote in the nomination that I have uncommon dedication to reaching students others have given up on. That's because of you. Because you showed me what that looks like. That's because of you, I corrected. You did the work, Amanda. You made the choice to show up every day for those kids. That's all you. We both know I wouldn't be here without your example. Then we're even, I said, because watching you transform has been one of the most beautiful things I've ever witnessed. 5 years after the Thanksgiving that changed everything, my family gathered again. This time, there was no tension, no performance, no hierarchy of success. We were just a family, each of us doing work we found meaningful. My father, inspired by our journeys, had retired early from his corporate job to volunteer as a reading tutor at a local elementary school. You and Amanda showed me there's more to life than climbing ladders, he said. These kids need help, and I have time. It's the most satisfying work I've ever done. My mother had joined the board of an educational nonprofit and was passionate about literacy initiatives. I spent so many years valuing the wrong things, she said. Now I'm trying to make up for lost time. As we sat around the table, Amanda raised her glass. I want to make a toast, she said. 5 years ago, I said some horrible things at this table. I called Rachel's life small. I mocked her career. I was cruel and dismissive and wrong. She looked at me, her eyes shining. Rachel, you are the most successful person I know, not because of your salary or your titles or your awards, though you have all of those things, but because you built a life of meaning. You wake up every day and make the world better. You've touched hundreds of lives, changed countless futures, and done it all with grace and humility and quiet strength. She paused, her voice thick with emotion. You taught me what success actually looks like. You taught me that impact matters more than income, that purpose beats prestige, and that the quietest successes are often the most profound. Thank you for not giving up on us. Thank you for showing us who you really are. Thank you for being exactly who you are. We all raised our glasses and I felt a completeness I'd never experienced before. This was it. This was the victory. Not revenge, not vindication, but genuine connection, genuine recognition, genuine love. Later that night, as I was leaving, my mother walked me to my car. I'm proud of you, she said simply. I should have said that every single day for the past 10 years, but I'm saying it now. I'm proud of who you are and what you've built, and the person you've become despite our failure to see you. Thanks, Mom, I said. That means more than you know. Can I tell you something? She asked. Last week at book club, we were discussing what we'd do differently if we could go back. And I said I'd ask more questions. I'd be more curious about my daughter's actual lives, instead of projecting my own definitions of success onto them. Everyone agreed we'd all failed at that in different ways. It's not too late to start, I said. I know. That's why I'm asking now. What's next for you, Rachel? What are you dreaming about? I smiled. Finally, someone was asking. I'm working on my second book, I said, and I've been approached about starting a nonprofit focused on teacher wellness and support. Teachers give so much to their students, but nobody takes care of the teachers. I want to change that. That sounds perfect, my mother said. Absolutely perfect. Let me know if you need any help. I'm serious. I will, I promised. As I drove home that night, I thought about the journey from invisible to invaluable. It hadn't been a straight line. There had been pain and anger and years of feeling unseen, but ultimately, the journey had been worth it. Not because my family finally recognized me, but because I'd learned to recognize myself. I'd learned that success doesn't need external validation. That purpose is more valuable than prestige. That impact outlasts income. That teaching, real teaching, deep teaching, is one of the most powerful forces in the world. And I'd learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living so fully in your purpose that other people's opinions become irrelevant. It's building a life so rich with meaning that external validation becomes unnecessary. It's knowing your worth so deeply that no one can take it from you. I am Rachel Morrison. I'm a teacher, a mentor, a curriculum developer, an author, and a board member of 3 educational nonprofits. I've changed lives, shaped futures, and built a legacy that will outlast me. My success isn't measured in bonuses or promotions or luxury cars. It's measured in students who found their voices, teachers who found their confidence, and families who found hope. And that's not a small thing. That's everything. Thank you for joining me on this journey from invisible to invaluable. If my story resonated with you, I'd love to hear about a time when you had to fight to be seen, or when you chose purpose over prestige. Drop a comment below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. If you believe that success comes in many forms and that all meaningful work deserves respect, please share this video with someone who needs the reminder. Subscribe for more stories about people who define success on their own terms and refuse to shrink themselves to fit others' expectations. Remember, your value isn't determined by other people's ability to see it. Know your worth, add tax, and never, ever apologize for choosing a life of meaning over a life of appearances. Until next time, this is Rachel reminding you that the quietest successes are often the most profound. Keep teaching, keep growing, keep showing up for the work that matters. The world needs you.